Okay, so welcome everyone. Oh, I've got to look at the right camera because I've got two screens. Hold on. Welcome everyone to Open Sight Baking Session. I'm Zoe from Open Sight Hampshire. We've created these exclusive baking sessions with Penny Melville Brown to sort of help interact and get great tips and share ideas on baking when you're living with a visual impairment or you are blind. Just a couple of house rules before we start. So as most of you know that are regular here, we do record this session. So if you would rather not be seen on the video, please turn off your cameras on your screen. And you won't be seen when we come to edit the video and use it on our YouTube channel and on our social media platforms. We find these videos are very helpful for people to look back on and follow the recipe in their own time, or indeed you can bake along with us live when we do these sessions once a month. Just need to look at my notes quickly. So today we're doing meringue roll, and I don't know about yourself, but I have tried to bake meringue in the past with not much success. It either becomes very flat or stays very flat and burnt, or it tries to rise and then it just goes in the middle. So I know it can be difficult to predict what's going to happen no matter how professional baker you are, but let's see what happens today. And at the end, we will be asking for ideas for new recipes. And also, I've got a few notices just to tell you at the end of the session. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to our lovely blind baker, Penny Melville Brown, who will take us through the tips on cooking meringue. Hi, Penny.
Thank you, Zoe. You put me under enormous pressure now, as I'm terrified this is going to be a complete disaster. But I'm going to crack on with this because actually making meringue is dead easy. It's going to take a while to cook. And if while it's cooking, I will chat to you about some other egg recipes and some other egg gadgets that I use. And you may have great gadgets that you can share with other people and tell us about. But let me first of all tell you what I've got here, which is my big Kenwood Chef. There are other mixers available. It's my big tabletop one. And in there, I've already got 3 egg whites in the bowl, and I have the big balloon whisk attachment. And now I need to add 1 more last egg. And I just wanted to show you this and talk it through with you. I have here 2 bowls. My mother bought me these, and these are for dividing eggs so that you get the egg yolk in one place and the white in another. So the first bowl has a little cap on it, and in the side of the cap there is a little prongy bit so you can break your egg on it with consummate ease. And somewhere I've got a box of eggs. There it is, last egg. So small bowl, probably 2 inches high, 2 inches wide. Lid on it. In the middle of the lid is the separator. That's where the yolk's going to sit in a minute. Side of the lid is this sort of wedge that I'm now going to crack my egg on. Open it carefully. Put it in there. Now, this is working because of 2 key reasons. One, these eggs are warm, and when I buy my eggs, some will go in the fridge, but the rest will go on the work surface here so they stay warm. The other thing about this is that these eggs are probably at least a week old. I bought these last Friday, not even last Friday, Friday before. So they are in a better condition for this sort of cooking. Now I'm lifting my little plastic lid off that bowl. I'm running a finger underneath to get any more egg white. I'm putting my egg yolk and I'm just feeling it. Alan, has my egg yolk disappeared? This is a really good test for a blind person. Check that the blessed egg yolk is, I think it's broken, isn't it?
The egg yolk has gone into
the egg whites.
the whites. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to do this again.
You've got it all the wrong way around, darling.
No. I know it's broken and gone through. Right, like any good cook, I have a spare egg, and I will now start this again. I did do it very carefully.
Stop my video. Alt plus V button.
This is not the easiest thing for a blind person to do. It does work. Let me try it one more time. Here we go. But that's why I would always separate the egg yolks and the egg whites, put them in separate bowls straight away. Keep, don't put all the egg whites into one bowl, because then you'll have a disaster. Right. You bated breath out there.
I'm just thinking, Penny, one technique I've used before separating eggs is using my hands. Where
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, you let the white fall through your hands and the yolk stays in the top.
Right, there it goes. I think that one's okay now, isn't it, darling? Yep. Yes. Right, I now have a bowl with 5 egg yolks and 1 white in it. I'm putting a lid on that so I can't knock it over. And that's going to the back of, I'll talk to you later on about how we can use those. I'm now going to put this last clean egg white into my bowl here and start beating it. Now, forgive me for this is going to be a bit noisy.
No worries.
Now, I don't know about you, but I use the finger test, and I'm putting a finger in there to feel the texture of that meringue. Sighted people get really upset about blind people using their hands. Actually, we need to. That's now what I would call a soft, wet peak. I'm just going to run it a little bit more. Right, so that's 4 egg whites.
What do you want me to say?
To a soft peak.
And going, but that's fine.
Is somebody saying something?
No,
Here I have my sugar, and I have to say this is an embarrassing large amount of sugar. It was 8 ounces of caster sugar, which sounds horrendous. So we're going to need to make a lot of puddings with this, because I don't know about you, but I very rarely cook with sugar anymore. The odd cake, and even then I'm using honey instead of sugar. Right, I put in a couple of dessert spoons of the sugar, going to whisk it. And as it's going, I'm adding another spoonful and another spoonful. Give it a whisk. Open it up. Have a feel. Yeah, that's going okay. Are you still out there?
Yes.
Yeah, it's coming up. It's firming up.
Is anyone baking along with Penny today?
If they're doing it by hand.
Yes, that's true.
Very quietly. I've put in another couple of dessert spoons. I've got a bit of a lump there, so I'm just breaking it up in my hands. Got about another couple of dessert spoons to go in. A little bit more. Having a feel. Yeah, this is really beginning to stand up now. Last of the sugar going in, and I'm going to keep this box. I've measured it out into a box, and you'll see why in a minute when we get onto the more difficult bits. This is the easy bit.
Right.
Okay, so you can hear me wazzing this right up. Right, I'm just feeling it now, and you need not to be frightened about feeling this. Yeah, this is much firmer, much thicker. Okay, next bit is we're making a pavlova mix for this. So the next bit is going to be our corn flour. I'm starting with the corn flour because I'm using some proper teaspoon measures. And if I start with the corn flour, then that's easiest to get other things off. So I'm looking for a teaspoonful of corn flour, and I'm just making that a flat teaspoonful, and that has gone in to my mix. Just making sure the teaspoon is actually emptied. I don't know whether you have these. I don't very often use these, but I've got 1/8 of a teaspoon, 1/4, 1/2, a whole teaspoon, and a tablespoon and 1.5 tablespoons, and they're actually quite useful measures. Now, here is the difficult bit. We want to add some vinegar, and it's a teaspoonful of vinegar. And do you remember I said I'd kept that box to hand? I've got here my teaspoon. I'm putting it over the box, and I'm going to pour my vinegar into this deep teaspoon measure. I can hear it overflowing. So actually, I know I've got a teaspoon in there, and that is going into my mix. I'm going to put the lid back on the vinegar before I spill it. So all I was doing was using the box to catch any overflow before I got it all over me, the work surface, and everywhere else.
Good idea.
And now I'm going to put in some vanilla extract. Well, in fact, I tend not to use extract because that's quite runny. I prefer vanilla paste. And I have actually found a little tube of vanilla paste. So I'm squeezing that into my teaspoon. I'm now using a finger to see if I've got any in, which I haven't. And I'll tell you what, I bet this is a brand new one and it's still got a foil cover.
Ah, yeah.
Yes. How's that? So I've taken the little lid off this tube. I am now removing the foil cover off, lid back on, teaspoon measure here.
So Penny, if you're using paste,
sorry?
Penny, if you're using vanilla paste, would you still use a teaspoonful?
Yes.
If the recipe says a teaspoon of vanilla essence, you'd use a teaspoon of
yes,
vanilla
I would.
Yeah, okay.
And I think for us, so I'm rattling through these spoons trying to find the right one. For us, I would really recommend vanilla paste.
Right.
So into there, just making sure I'm clear, just trying to keep this work surface reasonably clean. You know what it's like when you get into chaos, don't you? Life is a complete misery. So I'm just being really good, putting all those bits back into my sugar box so that I haven't got stuff everywhere. Everything in there, back, down, give it a really good whiz now. And everything is sticky. The knob on the side of the mixer is sticky. The little latch that you unlock it with is sticky. The tube is sticky. I am sticky. Just deliciousness. I'm just going to fold this down. And I'm just checking. That was off the back of a knuckle. I'm just going to give this one last go, and then we are going to put it into our baking pan. Right, now, I will wash up the mixer later. What I have here is one of my oven is set to gas mark 2. Alexa, what is gas mark 2 in degrees centigrade?
150 degrees Celsius equal gas mark 2.
They are 150 degrees Celsius.
Great.
It's so much easier than looking it up, isn't it? Now,
Absolutely.
what I have here is a roasting tin that is about 8 inches by 10. It's not one of my biggest roasting tins. And this is actually a deep roasting tin. You know, it's a couple of inches deep that you do roast potatoes in. And one day, if you're interested, I can show you a really simple way of doing a roast lunch. Roast potatoes, roast chicken, blah, blah, blah. But what I've done is I've very neatly lined this with baking parchment. So I haven't just sort of bunged it in and scruffled it up around the edges. I have folded it down all 4 sides. I've made very neat corners. So I'm trying to keep all of this really easy, not to put the meringue in, but to get it out again. Okay, so I've got a spatula here. I've got my bowl. Lost the spatula. Okay, now Hilary was talking to us about making a classic pavlova and whether you could get it into a round shape and get it all domed on the top so that you could fill it with cream. I was always taught, and this was actually by a New Zealand person, which is, I think, the sort of classic home of pavlova, that the way to do it is to simply pile the meringue up and it will find its own way. And if it's a little ragged around the edges, not a perfect circle, that makes it authentic.
Absolutely.
So nobody thinks you've brought the damn thing in. What I'm doing now is I'm actually just piling this. I was just testing this theory in this pan, and it is standing up and it will move and it is giving you height. So here we are, we're filling up this. I'm going to stop now. Oh,
Get it.
sorry.
Live TV.
Madhouse at the moment. Right, so this pavlova, if I was making a pavlova, it's not perfectly round. It's about, and I haven't put everything in here, it's about 3 inches high. And I could just smooth it over the top and it would be fine. But what I'm now going to do is spread this into the corners of my roasting tin. And I tell you what, this is a great, great task for blind people because it is all sticky. It is all soft, so you don't get much resistance when you push it. And I'm getting, if you could see me on the video, you would see that the hand version is going in because it's the only way I can manage this. But you heard me, I was washing my hands a minute ago.
Yeah.
Wash them again. And we have to accept this is the way we do things. So I'm spreading it all across the bottom and it's going to be, not an inch thick. If we get it too thick, we'll never be able to roll this. So it's going to be sort of 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch thick. I need to just try and get it even all the way across. And not get it all over the paper, which is coming over. I've got a gap there and another gap there. And I've still got the last bit coming out of my bowl. So this is 4 eggs. This will do you easily a dessert for, 4 greedy people, 6 normal people. In some of the households I know, 2. But again, that would be an awful lot of sugar to have at one sitting, wouldn't it? So this is, you know, the sort of dessert you might make for a special occasion because you're not going to make it every day. You don't want to overload people with all these calories. And if you could see me, you'd be thinking, what is Penny talking about calories? She is a very rounded person. but I do try. I certainly do try. Okay, last bit, hopefully coming out, plonking it in. Now, this is really probably the most difficult part of making this. And as we said, you could have just made it as a big sort of towering thing. Have you ever made baked Alaska?
Not yet.
No, no.
Yeah, well, think about that. You can make a baked Alaska. You make a sponge base, throw on a slab of ice cream, cover it with meringue, whack it in the oven. When I was in Italy, they often made baked Alaska for the mess dinners, and they would put half a eggshell in the top of the baked Alaska, and they would fill it with alcohol and set fire to it as it came to the table, and that was our Vesuvius volcano dessert.
Oh wow!
That was really spectacular. In those days, I could see, but that is an embarrassing long time ago. That is 40 years ago, in the officers' mess at in Naples, which is the Allied Forces Southern Europe, where I spent 3 very happy years learning Italian cuisine, because in those days it really wasn't that well known in this country. Okay, so that is, I'm just going to wash my hands again, excuse me. So here we have this pan, which is lined with its baking parchment. It has a not very thick layer of meringue on the bottom. As I said, 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch. I have another piece of baking parchment here, and that is now going on the top, because this is a pavlova mix, and what we're trying to do is protect the top of it from going too crisp, because in a while, when it's done, I'm going to put this in the oven now and then talk to you. Alexa, set timer 40 minutes.
40 minutes. Starting now.
You just set mine off as well.
I thought I had to, Alexa.
With the baking parchment, I'm being really careful with it, because what I don't want to do is find that it's catching in the gas and slightly singeing.
Yeah.
It changes the flavour profile. And that's the sort of thing that we can do so easily. So when that comes out, I've got that piece of baking parchment on the top, and that top is going to be the outside of the meringue roll. If we have time, I will show you, but it will come out, and I will take the baking parchment that is covering the top, just loosely, it's just sitting on top of the tin, and I will place that on a board. I will then place the board on top of the baking tin, and with deftness that will be utterly befuddling, I will turn the whole thing upside down. So that's the really exciting bit about this dish. And so you turn out the meringue top to bottom, and then you spread whipped cream on the inside, and then throw in some fruit. Now, the reason I like this dish, in how I always make it, other than from you delectable people, is I would mix some alcohol into the cream. So I would put in, I don't know, some Cointreau. I don't know, what other liqueurs do you like? It could be rum, it could be a little brandy. And the reason I do that is because I usually freeze this dish. I have a much bigger roasting tin, and I would make it with probably 6 or more egg whites. So it's a much, much bigger roll. I would put the alcohol into the cream, and that, when the cream freezes, it stops it splitting. So I whisked the cream, double cream, with the alcohol, spread it on, throw in the fruit, spread it out, roll it up in that essential piece of baking parchment that it's sitting on. So the outside, the top become the bottom, the original bottom of the roll becomes the outside. And I used to have a great big bread loaf tin that was about 2 foot long. And so one of those would, one of those would take this big roll straight into the freezer just as it is. And then you've got a dessert for, you know, a week's time, a month's time. So it's one of these things that you can make beforehand. But the key is around putting a little bit of alcohol into the cream so that its freezing temperature is slightly different.
Great.
Does that sound interesting?
Yeah, I didn't know you putting alcohol in cream would help it free, you know, keep it freeze.
Oh, right. You're not an ice cream maker, are you?
No.
I make a really lovely honey and whiskey ice cream. But if you get too heavy-handed with the whiskey, which you should really be just using to flavor it, it never sets because it changes the freezing temperature. And it's one of the fun. You know, when you defrost the car, actually, again, going back to Naples, we had very cold winters there. And people would put gin in their windscreen wiper fluids.
What a waste.
Can I tell you, alcohol in those days was so cheap and it was duty free. So you would just put gin or vodka or something in your windscreen wipers and they would just take all the ice off the windscreen.
Oh, wow.
Doesn't it sound decadent? For this one today, because I'm freezing it, and you need to think about what fruit you, if you were freezing it rather, you need to think about what fruit you would put in it that will also respond well to freezing. Strawberries are not great because of their water content. What I've got today is some frozen raspberries. I wouldn't probably refreeze them because we'll have this for lunch, you know, today, tomorrow, and the rest of this week, if you believe me. But think about what other fruit you might freeze. So it might be other berries. So it could be red currants, black currants will be interesting. Not bananas. Bananas don't freeze necessarily desperately well, although you can make banana ice cream. Apples I would be wary of. Pear is not going to be strong enough in flavor, I think. So you're looking for something quite punchy, because don't forget you've got so much sugar in this. You've got so much mildness in the cream. So you want something that's quite acid, quite bright in flavor to offset all the rest of it. Can I show you a couple of other gadgets that I've got here? And I'm just going to clear myself a little space. I've got a box here. Now, so what this is, it's a little dome with the top cut off shape. It's only about an inch and a half across. And you press down, you put your egg inside it, press down, and a little metal stick comes up, and it just puts a hole in the bottom of your egg. And that will mean that when you put it in hot water to do your 3.5 minute soft-boiled egg or your longer boiled egg, the whole egg will not crack. It's really useful. So if I was making that kedgeree and I wanted a soft-boiled egg, I'd have my pan of boiling water on the side. I'd pop my eggs very gently into this, push them down so I could hear it, and we would hear it crack. And it just punches a little hole in the bottom. It's like having a nail, and you could probably do it with a nail, but this is probably cleaner. And then it would go into the water for 3.5 minutes. So that would make your kedgeree. What if I was wanting to make Scotch eggs, and I don't know whether we ever did Scotch eggs together, then I could have soft-boiled eggs in the middle of my Scotch eggs, and those are so easy to do. All sorts of other dishes you can make with an egg, and often I think we forget about using eggs as a main meal. They're good in themselves. One of my favourite dishes is scrambled egg. but we actually have a dedicated pan for scrambled eggs. It never goes into the dishwasher. It's always hand washed. It's always used as a non-stick scouring pad or similar to get it clean. You really need to just make sure, if you're going to do good scrambled eggs, with your silicone spatula, that you're using a good non-stick pan that is still non-stick. The other thing that I use a lot, in addition to those dividing egg dividers, is this simple, very old-fashioned egg slicer. So you remember it? Can you hear it?
Oh, it's like springy.
You've got like a harp that comes down. You put your egg into the plastic bottom. You bring the harp down. It slices through, and then you can lift it off, and the egg may or may not come with it. What I would normally do, though, is I would spin the egg round 90 degrees and bring it down again. So then I've got little cubes of egg. So if I was wanting to make egg mayonnaise, I would, have little pieces of nicely, it looks hand done, doesn't it? Nicely chopped up egg, but not in a splodgy mess. The other thing I would do with eggs, and do you remember I've got this bowl now with 4 or 5 egg yolks in it. What I'm going to do with those probably is make something like, I'm dreaming up a creme royale or a creme brulee or something like that. So I will mix those with cream, with honey, and then you could either put it in the oven, and I would definitely cover them with foil and put them in a bain-marie, so that you fill a tin with water halfway up your little containers, and then just put them in there for about an hour on not too hot a heat. But I actually put them in the sous vide. I have little jam jars with lids. So I pour this cream into the jam jars, toss them into the sous vide. Well, place them gently, but yes, into the sous vide, 80 degrees for 60 minutes, and they come out and they're perfect. And if you wanted to, at the end of that, you would sprinkle a little soft brown sugar on the top, take your handy blowtorch, and I confess that is not something I do, and just brulee them off with that. So you've got a little crisp sugar top, and then you've got the creme brulee underneath. The last thing I wanted to talk to you about was mayonnaise. And actually, I should have kept that whole egg and yolk together, and I would have made mayonnaise. And I don't know whether you've seen them. We used to be able to get mustard in like little glasses, that you could take, had a plastic lid on the top.
Oh, yeah.
Or sometimes you can get jam in them. I think the Americans call them jam glasses or something like that. They drink out of these jam jars. And I always thought they were very strange, but actually I think it is this sort of glass. So into the bottom of that, I put a whole egg, then the salt. And it's quite important because salt helps the egg yolk emulsify. Then a teaspoonful of powdered English mustard. And then I would add my oil. And the reason I use these glasses is I know how far up the glass to pour the oil. And I don't know about you, but pouring oil for visually impaired people is incredibly difficult because it doesn't go glug, glug, glug. You don't really get much sense of it. Its temperature is quite warm, so you can't feel it like water or milk. So it's very difficult to judge how much oil you are pouring into a container. Now, what you could do is put it on the scales, do it once with some supervision perhaps, pour in the oil and weigh it. And then you would know what was your mix. So if I was making mayonnaise, I'd have this glass, as I said, egg, salt, mustard powder, oil. I would probably use 50% extra virgin, 50% sunflower. And then I have a bay mix, and it's one of these wand beaters. Do you know what I mean?
No.
An electric one?
is an electric one.
Right.
If I get mine, let me just see if I've got mine here.
Oh, is it like the stick blender, but having
A stick blender, is that what people call them these days?
Well,
Sorry, it's
a
difficult
chopper.
when we don't really see the advertising.
Yeah.
This
Well,
is
I've got
a stick blender, and it has a sort of chopping blade. And the point about this one is it goes very, very fast if you press the right button, which is always a good tip. And that will make mayonnaise in about 30 seconds.
Right.
And so I've put it in the glass, I've whizzed it like stink, and I bring it up through it so it lifts up the oil, lifts the egg into the oil, blends it all. And then you've got something that is very unctuous. It's all mixed together, but it's a bit bland because there's a lot of oil. So at that stage, I would add the juice of half a lemon, whiz it up and down again, put on its plastic top, and that I would put in the fridge for a week, and it's excellent. And if I'm making a little winter salad, which I would do with a couple of sticks of celery, couple of carrots peeled and battened, chopped, an apple, some dry roasted pumpkin seeds, and a handful or so of raisins or sultanas. That is an absolutely delicious salad. You can add a little finely chopped onion or spring onion if you want to. And that with one of, did we make the pork pies?
Yes.
Yes, we have, yeah.
Well, we would often have a really tiny little baked potato, one of the pork pies, which comes out of the freezer, and I defrost and just cook in the oven. So we've got a hot pork pie, a hot tiny baked potato, and this delicious winter salad. And that's what we would have as a really good lunch. Is that making you feel hungry?
Yes. Definitely.
Yeah.
And just thinking, you're talking about the stick blender. I know what you're talking about now. I used to have one years ago when my children were babies. I used to blend their food, puree their food up.
Yes.
I know what you mean. I think I may still have it lurking in the cupboard somewhere.
You have 10 minutes left on your 40-minute timer.
We've got 10 minutes before this thing comes out of the oven. I don't know whether you want to chat anymore. We could talk about what you might like to do in the future. You might be really intrigued by seeing me trying to get this thing out of the oven.
I think we need to wait for that.
We need to definitely wait for this.
Definitely.
Thank you so much. I am clearly just your entertainment today, aren't I?
I can always edit it for you at the end.
Well, I've definitely learned today that I need to probably use eggs at a room temperature to make things like meringue then, because my eggs are normally in the fridge.
Yeah.
And also the baking sheet on top as well to protect the top.
Yeah.
But, what I'm trying to get you to realise is that we can do just about anything in the kitchen if we have the right equipment, and it doesn't need to be specialist equipment.
No.
How do you manage hot water out of the kettle for drinks?
I try and get kettles with a lip on the spout. A curve on the spout. But I have recently, the last kettle we got, I think it was during lockdown, so I couldn't actually go and test it out. We bought it through, delivery, and it hasn't got the little lip on the end of the pouring spout. So these days I'm just putting my mugs or teapot on the drainer so that any spills just go down the sink.
Anybody else got some great?
Yeah, I've got a 1 cup kettle where you just press the button, put the cup underneath, and it pours exactly the amount. And I've also got a Dol Gusto coffee maker thing, where you put the pods in, and that just fills up to the limit.
Anybody else?
I've got the 1 cup kettle as Zoe's got.
Yes. Hilary, can I just can you hear this? I'm just finding my kettle. It's up here. I'm putting a mug underneath it. One press. And it's doing absolutely nothing. Oh, here it goes. So I've walked away. I'm come back to you now. So in there, I could have put my tea bag, my instant coffee, whatever you like. It is boiling only exactly the right amount of water. So what this is doing, of course, is it's energy efficient. Lots of people boil big kettles and take out just a mug full, then the rest of the water is stale next time. So Alan fills this up, that's what boys are for. Fills this up once a day, and that will just run out the right amount of water. And can you hear it? It's just coming up to the boil.
Had a
And that's
click.
it, dispensing it.
Yeah,
And
they are
those you can
good.
buy just in any shop.
Yeah, they're not expensive, are they? They're,
So 20, 30 pounds, something
Yeah.
like that. So you're doing your bit for the planet. You're being much more independent, and actually you're being much safer.
yeah.
This is smelling a bit hot because what has happened is I've got some of the meringue mix on the paper, so it's scorched a bit.
Right.
I am now, excuse me, I've got my back to you. Right, oh, this is excellent. Ha!
Of course it is.
I wish you could see it. What it does say to you is, be really careful about spreading it as evenly as you can. This is not perfection on that score.
That's fantastic.
You're just looking after it because you want it for lunch. Right, I have the piece of paper that I took off the top. And I'm going to just bring this over and talk to you over there. No, it's okay. I have a pristine tea towel. Alan insists that we only have clean tea towels on show. Otherwise, we look as if we live in squalor. Of course we do. This pan is hot.
Well, darling.
Well, yes, all right. Have I got it on the right place on the work surface? No, that's it. Right, this pan is hot. If you were doing it, you'd be wearing the oven gloves that Alan is now handing me. Do not ever put on wet oven gloves.
No.
And I have these fabric ones, which actually I think they're for barbecues or something. So they're fabric, they are quite tight. They've got little silicone bits on them, so you've got extra grip. These are much like actual gloves. So I have one for each hand. I need to feel it. Sorry, I'm being mothered here. So here is the meringue, and it is in this tray. I didn't get it quite into the edges because I was rushing a bit, and it's not as even as I would like. If you were doing it, just do it more carefully than this. Now the top of it is, I'm trying to feel my arm. If you feel your arm, you've got skin on the top, and then underneath you can feel, hopefully, some fleshiness. And that's what this feels like. So we've got a skin on the top, and if I poke it, there's sort of movie fleshiness underneath. So I give you a sense of it's not rock hard or anything like that. And that's partly because of the paper I put on the top. Now, this piece of paper is now back on top of the tin, just loose. And then I was really thoughtful beforehand, and I've got one of my chopping boards, and I measured it so that I could put it over this tin. So I have now got tin, baking paper inside it, meringue inside that, paper on top, board on top of that. And now Okay, I'm going to turn it upside down. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, any blind person can do this. Right, I'm now going to have to take this gloves off so that I can peel the paper off around the edge. Now, wise virgins would leave this for a while, but you know.
Would you like me to do it now?
Would you take the tin off, my love? Just be. Sorry, I'm using him as a time-saving method.
Yeah.
Off.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. So now I've got the bottom of the tin liner facing me, and I'm going to very gently start peeling that off. And I regret that this is not a great visual thing. No, I had a knife there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just going to ease the paper off the meringue, okay? Because some of this meringue is still quite soft. Alan, is that coming off reasonably?
It's coming away, yeah.
It's coming off reasonably cleanly.
Yeah, just down there.
So you know how you'd skin a fish. So I'm peeling the paper back towards the left and just running a knife down just to ease it off.
Yeah.
And it's coming off quite easily. And there's hardly any meringue left on the paper.
Excellent.
If you wanted to do this very neatly, you can dye foil that is lined on one side with baking parchment. So you could make a very precise box and do it very, very smartly, but you know, life's too short. Is that about off, my love?
Almost, yeah, okay.
So I'm,
Continue doing what we're doing.
yeah.
Okay.
So if I was doing this more slowly, I'd probably do it by myself, but because I'm rushing a bit, I'm using eyeballs.
Okay.
And eyeballs do have that. Right, so what not much left on there, is there?
No.
Okay, so now I've got meringue on my board, laying on its paper. Now, most of these things have got a short end and a long end. And I am planning to spread cream on this and then roll it along the long end. So I've got the short end furthest away from me and the long ends going away from me. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
I'll be clear. No.
Sort of portrait.
Thank you. A4 portrait. Not landscape. Oh, I love these people who use modern technology. Right, now I'm in the fridge. I have some frozen raspberries and I actually whipped some cream somewhere. Can you just...
Touch it. Yeah.
There? No, whipped cream, darling.
Is this the one that Karen?
It's whipped cream. I have a bowl of whipped cream. One of the joys about having sighted people is you can still say whipped cream and they still do not understand what it means. Right, so I'll be honest, this is just slightly warmer than I would normally fill it, but in for a penny, in for a pound. So here we go. Cream splopping on. Think about spreading bread and butter. And just remember that your tight end of the roll, it'll all squeeze out like billy-o. So don't fill it up too much there.
Mm.
Do you remember I had the top of the meringue? You could put flaked almonds on that, and that would give you a nice texture on the outside. If I was doing this for the first time, I'd keep it really simple. Just get it right. And what is this costing you? 4 eggs and some sugar, and you could give up at that stage if you hadn't got it right before you commit yourself to the cream. And this is a nice meringue. You could any way you could use this. You could, we've got now this big expanse of meringue. You could very happily, as I'm doing, cover it with cream, not too much at the very far end, because that's going to be the start of my fold. Put fruit on top of it and serve it as your rectangular pavlova. It's thinner, it's not so posh, it'll go further, easier to serve for you. So I'm just sort of trying to think of other ways you could do it. And if anybody's watching the video, they will see that I am using my hand to feel where I've put the cream.
Yeah.
And I have no compunction about that. We do not, our hands are our eyes. I once had somebody really complaining that they saw me using my hands, and they said, "Oh, how unhygienic." And I thought, how misunderstanding that person was, that they did not conceive of us trying to do things that they could just do with ease. Right. Raspberries going in. These are actually still rather frozen. So actually, they're less frozen at the bottom, but they're going to be lovely. And raspberries I like with this because they are a really bright, sharp flavour. And that, of course, is why I think classically a pavlova has raspberries, because you want something to cut through all this sweetness. Are you sitting there breathlessly waiting for me to do something? Right, I am now, I have this box of frozen raspberries, and I am desperately trying to feel as I put them on to this meringue slab, that I'm not putting on big lumps of ice, because we're doing this rather more quickly. But you could see that you could do this in the summer with lovely fresh raspberries. In the summer, if I wasn't freezing it, strawberries would be good. I'm a great fan of what they call strawberries cordon bleu. So where we would add some orange juice and orange zest to it. Can you imagine that spread over this? Wouldn't that be lovely? If you weren't happy about rolling it, you could have cut this in half, and you could put one half on the other, so you had a meringue sandwich. You can see all those sort of different things. Right, I'm not going to go any further with this. I'm not sure that I've got this beautifully even, but right, now I'm pulling up my paper from the far end, and I haven't put too much cream or fruit at the very far end, and this is the narrow end. We're on portrait A4. I'm rolling it towards me, and it is rolling. And I've got a little bit there that just needs a bit of help because it's got crisp at the edges. No, I'm doing this. I'm just breaking it with my fingers.
Hello, it's him.
Right. Now, how's that, my love?
Wonderful.
And that, I brought it to the end. It's rolled over. You've got a bit more? Another one? This is a man who's got investment in this. Because he's seeing this as lunch. And I've got some bits that are coming out the edge. I've actually got, I'm feeling the roll. It is still a bit warm. It's probably just a bit too quick to have done this. But the roll is pretty entire, isn't it? I don't suppose any of you can see this.
There might be some people with useful vision.
Yeah,
a very
would you be able to lift it up a little bit? I can see centrally, but I can't see.
Can I get Alan to do that for you? Let me just. Yes, it do. That was me licking. My hand.
Can you see that now? So I lift it up.
Yeah, can do. Yeah, that's great.
It's quite dark in colour.
Yeah.
Unlike commercial meringue, which is white for some other reason, but this is the proper colour for that.
Yeah.
It's a
No, that
homemade
looks
one.
great.
It's great.
Yeah.
Lovely, isn't it?
Thank you.
Super.
Now, how easy was that, really?
What time should we be round?
We would have been, we'd have thrown that in the oven. And what I would have done is I've got the bowl that I made the meringue in.
So that's the ending course.
Oh, yeah. Lovely. Oh, yeah, that's great.
Right.
Yes, thank you.
I would have thrown the cream into the bowl in which I'd made the meringue, because before I washed it up, because you've got a bit of sugar in there, a bit of egg white, who cares? I might have put in my spirit if I was using a bit, if I wanted to freeze it. But this is utterly respectable. You could easily just use this paper we rolled it up in, wrap it in that and freeze it. You might put it in the box to protect it. And that will make you, let me think, I'm using 2 finger widths, okay? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 7, certainly 6 portions, easy. Hasn't taken us long.
Very clever.
Probably an hour and a half altogether.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
So when you buy meringue, it's always bright white, and every time I cook it, it's brown. So I always think that's a failure. But yours is brown. No. Good. So
I have no idea what colour it is. I don't care. It's authentic.
Yeah.
Not shop bought.
So they must put something in it to keep it that white, mustn't they?
They probably cook it very, very slowly.
Oh, okay.
In a machine, and probably a robot's making it rather than a human being or something.
Yes.
So if it comes out brown, that's okay.
I don't know how brown is this, Alan?
It is quite brown. Yeah.
It is quite brown. Well, I don't have any problems with it being brown.
If it tastes good, then what the hell?
That's what mine come out like normally, and I always think, oh, it's not white.
Yeah.
So well, yeah, that's fine then. It's homemade and it tastes good, and that's the main thing.
I think you're here under misapprehension. You're supposed to be blind and not be able to see the colour.
Well, you got vision. It's a spectrum, isn't it, of vision? So.
I'm teasing you.
Some colours we can see, some colours we can't.
Yeah, no, I can see some colours.
No, well, how lucky. Well, now you know that if you've got a brown meringue, that's homemade, handmade.
Yeah.
Those shop bought ones, they are probably cooking them very slowly on a very low heat.
I'm coming from.
Oh, your alarm's going off.
Live TV.
So, are you interested in this roast lunch next time?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, please.
And
please.
It's going to be just dead easy, and you may not see it all. But I was just going to talk through principles with you so that if you want to entertain, you can do it. No hassle at all. And that's what I think is really good for us. We don't need hassle in the kitchen. And now you've got a pudding to go with it.
Excellent. Great. So we'll do that on the next baking session. I think I worked it out to be 11th of April, which is the second Monday of the month.
Yeah.
At the same time, everyone, 10:30. So yeah, thank you ever so much, Magda. No, thank you very much, Penny, for sharing your meringue recipe with us. And I can't wait to try it actually, because I have in the past tried to cook meringue and it's been a disaster. But you've just proven that it can turn out well, even when you're under pressure, being live on a stream in front of everyone. No, absolutely amazing. Thank you ever so much. So we will share the link of the next session for the 11th of June no, not, oh gosh sake, 11th of April, sorry guys, getting tongue tied again. So 11th of April will be our next baking session, which I will share with you when I email you with the link to this video once it's been edited and put on YouTube. I just wanted to quickly mention that on this Wednesday, the 16th of March, we will be having our information and equipment day, where you can meet suppliers and people offering services for visually impaired and blind people, and try out the latest equipment and stuff at Winchester Discovery Centre. That's this Wednesday, the 16th of March. It's free entry to get in, and you can go around and talk to the likes of blind veterans and Seeing Solutions and other suppliers. If you've got any ideas for future recipes for Penny, please let Penny or myself know. We'd love to hear from you. And thank you all for coming, and it's nice to have some new faces as well. And yeah, I can't wait to try this recipe, so thank you.
We're looking forward to lunch. Bye-bye.
Okay,
Bye.
Bye.
thanks everyone, bye.
Another great baking exclusive session with Penny Melville Brown, hosted by Open Sight Hampshire.
When I started this today, I had a clean apron.
It looks clear to us, Penny. Our baking sessions take place every second Monday of the month via Zoom. Our baking sessions are for anyone who is visually impaired or blind who would like to come along and learn new ideas and share their tips and interact with other visually impaired people.
Oh wow, that's massive!
It's like a massive cookie.
Look, if I put it, you can't see my head.